The South African Police Services, K9 and diving units, together with the Tshwane Emergency Services, are continuing with their search for a man who was swept away by the Apis River on Thursday. The search was called off due to low visibility and high water levels. This is the second drowning incident this week, after another man was swept away by the same river, while two others who were with him managed to survive.
On Wednesday, the South African Weather Service issued an alert of disruptive rains that could cause flooding in Gauteng, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape and the Northwest Province. The following day, a man was swept away by the Apis River near the Pretoria Zoo. This followed another drowning incident of a man whose body was found near the Bonaccord Dam. It's the second incident in a week where a man is swept away by the Apis River. Authorities suspect that it's the homeless who sleep under bridges that fall victim.
Around the Tshwane area, a man was swept by the Apis River just after 1 o'clock on Thursday. The search for the man continued until there was a problem with the visibility and the water levels were very high.
In Centurion, the Henops River burst its banks, leading to flooding and the closure of multiple roads. Despite the city of Johannesburg not having any major incidents, the emergency service is appealing to churches to avoid baptismal ceremonies in rivers during times of heavy rainfall.
We still continue to encourage our church community out there, the pastors, to exercise caution as and when they conduct baptism.
The South African Weather Service says the wet weather is expected to subside on Saturday. Offenses Tibo, SABC News, Pretoria.
Let's continue that discussion with Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Robert Mulaudzi. Mr. Mulaudzi, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So just please give us a lay of the land. What is the situation as we speak?
Good evening, Alcibiso, and evening to the viewers. Yeah, so far we still receiving some rainfall in most parts of the city. At this stage, we don't have any major incidents which have been reported overnight throughout the city of Johannesburg. Even though there was some affected homes in Alexander area of Sosweta, which was reported earlier on this morning, but there was no families which were evacuated in that area. So far we still have our disaster management monitoring teams in all 7 regions of the city, monitoring mostly our most vulnerable communities, which is our informal settlements. Since they are mostly in our flood line. So when we have severe thunderstorms like the ones we're having now, they are the ones who are mostly affected. So we still continue to encourage them to refrain from crossing river streams as and when they conduct their day-to-day business, and also to monitor young kids to stay away from the river streams, because so the water levels now in most of our river streams in the city, if you look at Galfontein, Jackskay and also Klipvalley, these 3 river streams are mostly cutting across most of our informal settlements in the city of Johannesburg. So the water levels right now, as we speak, they are much more higher. So young kids might be tempted to play next to those areas, and then we might have a drowning incident. So that is the situation so far.
I mean, Robert, I feel like we've had this conversation many times over, particularly about high or rising water levels in rivers. And we're not just talking minors here, we're talking about adults who often misjudge the situation. Please just, let's talk about that a little bit more, because sometimes adults think that they can manage the situation, but can you please at least explain to them why not to take chances?
Yeah, you cannot really underestimate, the current of the water, because if you look, mostly the people who get affected are mostly maybe the people who are staying mostly in those bridges, because in most of the areas you find that there are people who reside around those bridges where normally when we have fresh floods, they get affected. And also the residents who normally stay along the river banks, who are normally crossing these river streams on a day-to-day basis, as and when they are conducting day-to-day business. So we are pleading with them to refrain from crossing those areas, because in most of the cases you find out that they end up being swept away, as you witnessed in your report there earlier on, that most of the people get swept away as and when they are trying to cross these areas, not forgetting our cities, so the public transport, like mostly taxis and buses. We've seen in the past that as and when we get rainfalls like the ones we're getting now, not only in the city of Johannesburg, I mean, we're talking about, let's say, all over South Africa, we still find reports where you will find a taxi trying to cross a river or a bridge which is flooded. In the process, you might find out that in that taxi or a bus, there's like 40, 50 people who are inside there, you know, whose lives becomes vulnerable because of that, maybe the driver taking a chance to cross those areas. So we're still pleading with our motorists out there to say, we are still told that we must still receive a lot of rainfalls in most parts of the country. So let's try and exercise caution and try not to take a chance to cross those areas, so that we can be able to prevent, incidents where these vehicles might be swept away. And of course, we cannot let this opportunity get away from us if we don't, I would say, plead with the church communities, because we know that as and when now that the water levels are much more higher, there are those congregants or churches who prefer to go to river streams to conduct baptisms. So we are saying to them, please make sure that as and when you conduct this kind of baptisms, you exercise caution, make sure that all the safety measures are in place, so that we can be able to prevent incidents like we have witnessed in the past, where a number of people lost their lives. We're even pleading to say that in the service, in the city of Johannesburg, we've got a unit which is a public education unit which specializes on a day-to-day basis by making sure that we conduct public education programs to empower our residents. So we are pleading with the church communities to contact us on the following number, which is a public education hotline, which is 011-758-5050, so that we can also come where they are to educate them about the importance of exercise, making sure that all the safety measures are taken into consideration, so that we can be able to prevent these usual incidents which are occurring almost every week, where people are losing their lives when they are conducting baptism outside.
Robert, just a final question. On the current situation, we are seeing heavy rains continuing, and the forecast is, I think, for pretty much the whole weekend. What is the situation in Johannesburg? Have there been areas that have been destroyed, or, I mean, we're talking beyond the drownings here, have houses been submerged?
No, so far we don't have situations like the previous ones, which we had a number of houses which were affected, like in Rodiport and Venezia and Protea Glen, like what happened last year towards the end of the year. So far we don't have those kind of situations, but since we are told that we might still have this kind of rainfall maybe over the weekend, we're still remaining on a high alert. So we are monitoring mostly of those flood-prone areas like your Lenasia, Protea Glen, Rodiport and other areas. And of course, most of our informal settlements. So far, we have not yet received any reports to our disaster management center to say that maybe there's another area where we have to evacuate people, but we have got all those temporary emergency shelters in place, so that if, as and when there's a need for us to evacuate people, we can be able to do so as quickly as possible.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Robert. Thank you very much. Robert Mulaudzi, Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson. Well, let's leave it here for now. We are back again with more news here on The Globe. Please stay with us.